What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a branded dual avatar deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Tyler. And this deck is an extremely fun fusion deck that makes some absolutely incredible plays with just how well these two archetypes work together. I really love how many awesome fusion monsters this deck can actually summon with just how well this deck flows. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name, description, every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. And definitely give Tyler some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Dual Avatar Fists. This card is a really good 3-of in the deck. It's just so good overall that you always want to see in your opening hand. It has a really cool effect that you get to target a dual avatar monster that you control and destroy it. And if you do, you get to add a dual avatar spell from your deck to your hand. And if a face-up dual avatar fusion monsters you control that was fusion summoned using an effect monster as material is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect, while this card's in the grave, you can just add this card back to hand, which is a great effect to be able to just get this card back to your hand so you can use it again for another fusion play. I then play 3 copies of Dual Avatar Feet. This card is a really good 3-of as well in the deck. It has an awesome effect that if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add a dual avatar trap from your deck to your hand. And then during your opponent's turn, if a face-up dual avatar monster you control except another copy of this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and then you can apply this effect to destroy a dual avatar monster that you control, and if you do, special summon out a dual avatar fusion monster from your extra deck, which is a crazy powerful effect that you can just destroy one of your monsters and then instantly get a monster from your extra deck onto your side of the field, which is a really good effect. I then play 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is just a really good 2-of in the deck that we can use with our branded fusion to go into cards like Mirror Jade, Lubellion, or even Albion to make some really powerful fusion monsters. This card is also a super poly on legs, so this card is a definite 2-of in this build. I then play 2 copies of Spriggan's Kit. Spriggan's Kit is a really good 2-of in this deck as well, because it's actually searchable off of a card, Branded Lost, that we play in this deck, and it also helps us get to our copy of Branded Fusion even faster. This card has the ability that if you have a fusion monster that mentions a Fallen of Albaz as a material on the field or in the grave, you can just instantly special summon this card from your hand. But the really awesome effect on this card is if it's normal or special summon, then you can add to your hand one of your branded spell or trap cards that's banished in your deck or in your graveyard and place a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. This card can, off of a normal summon, instantly get you to your copy of Branded Fusion. So this card is a really good 2-of in the deck to be able to normal summon out to your field and get that really powerful effect by just putting a card from your hand back into the deck. So this card is a really good 2-of in this build. I then play a single copy of Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Mercurier is a great hand trap that we can also search off our copy of Branded Lost, and has a really good effect that it's basically a hand trap that when your opponent activates a monster effect, while you control a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or face in your field to the graveyard to negate that effect, which is a great effect to be able to search off of your copy of your Branded Lost to then be able to have a hand trap that's searchable in this deck. I then play a single copy of the Light Hex Seal Fusion. The Light Hex Seal Fusion is a really good 1-of in this deck to be able to use with your copy of Branded Fusion to make your copy of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. Because when you activate your copy of Branded Fusion, you can go into your copy of Albion and then use Albion's effects to be able to banish off your copy of the Light Hex Seal Fusion and your copy of your Fallen of Albaz that's in the graveyard to be able to make a copy of Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, because this card can count as Dark Magician because it's a fusion substitute monster that can be used in the graveyard, which is really cool. I then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good. It's the best hand trap in the entire game, so it's a definite 3-of in this deck to be able to stop the opponent from touching the deck while we're going into all of our really awesome fusion monsters. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Rhoda. Rhoda's just really good because it counts basically as additional copies of our dual avatar monsters. So this card is a definite 1-of in this build. I then play a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming gets us to our extremely powerful field spell that we always want to see. So this card is a definite 1-of in this build. 1 copy of Called by the Grave just to stop the opponent from hand trapping us while we're going in for all of our awesome plays. I'm playing 2 copies of Branded Lost. I feel like 2 is totally fine with the copies of Kit in this deck. deck, but this card is absolutely crazy because it has the ability that the activation of cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated, and also your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way, which is a crazy awesome effect to be able to just basically have basically a magical meltdown effect to be able to protect your monsters when they're fusion summoned and protect your cards that are actually fusion summoning those monsters, which is just really, really cool. But this card also is a searcher because if you fusion summon a fusion monster, any fusion monster, then you can add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, which is your copies of Mercurier or your copies of Kit that you can actually search off this card, which will get you additional copies of Branded Fusion, or will get you a copy of Fallen of Albaz that's a walking super polymerization, which is just really good, or a hand trap, which is really nice. I then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is the craziest field spell, or the craziest fusion spell ever printed in the entire game. This card is just so good. Being able to fusion summon using monsters from the deck is super good, and especially since it only locks us into fusion summoning for the turn, which is not that big of a deal because Dual Avatar is actually a fusion deck, which is really, really good. So this card is absolutely insane in this deck. I then play a single copy of Dual Avatar Defeating Evil. Defeating Evil is a great 1-of in the deck. I wanted to play this card as a 2-of, but I ended up bumping it down to 1 for another copy of Branded Lost. But it's really good because it has the ability to target a Dual Avatar monster that you control and one card your opponent controls and destroy them, essentially being like a scrap drag or being more like a break sword, which is really cool. Then, if you destroyed a Dual Avatar fusion monster that you control by this effect, you can apply one of the following effects to either draw a card or banish one card that your opponent's graveyard, which is really good to be able to just get rid of a card out of your opponent's grave, but it's just a really, really good 1-of in this deck. And then play 3 copies of Dual Avatar Invitation. This card is absolutely insane. This card is a definite 3-of because it generates so many tokens on your side of the field, because it has the ability that you can discard a card, and if you do, you get to special summon as many Dual Avatar Spirit tokens to your side of the field as possible that are Warrior, Light, level 2, 0 attack, and 0 defense. Also, for the rest of the turn, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except fusion monsters, and all tokens you control cannot be treated and are destroyed during the end phase. And after this effect resolves, that you get those tokens on the field, you can apply this effect to fusion summon a Dual Avatar fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And that's really insane because you can actually apply that effect up to twice per turn by this effect, essentially being a double polymerization, which is absolutely insane. This card is really, really good as a 3 in the deck and pretty much makes the entire deck. Speaking of making the entire deck, we're going to play 3 copies of the field spell Perfect Sync. Perfect Sync is so good because it has the ability, when this card is activated, you can add a Dual Avatar monster from your deck to your hand, and if you control a Dual Avatar effect monster that you just searched off this card, you can special summon out a token to your side of the field, but you can't summon from the extra except for fusion monsters for the rest of the turn, but that's totally fine because it's going to get us to all of our fusion plays and generate us that token, which is really, really good. I then play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment is really good because we can reveal any of our fusion monsters that are dual avatars in the extract, and then just immediately summon out either Fist or Feet to our side of the field, which is really good directly from the deck. And since we're fusion summoning this deck only, this card basically has no drawback. And then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization is really good with all the Super Poly targets we have in the extra deck. This card is just really good because it can out pretty much any monster in the entire game. So it's a definite 3-of in this build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing some extremely powerful Dual Avatar traps with a single copy of Dual Avatar Ascendance. Ascendance is a really, really good 1-of in the deck. I wanted to play this card as a 2-of, but with all the branded cards, I ended up bumping it down to 1. It has the ability to target a Dual Avatar monster that you control and destroy it, and if you do, you special summon a Dual Avatar monster from your deck or extra deck whose level is 1 level higher or 1 level lower than that monster had on the field. And then during the main phase, the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target a Dual Avatar monster in your grave and add that card back to your hand, which is a really, really good effect, but you can only use each effect this card once per turn. And then play a single copy of Dual Avatar Return. I play these at 1 each because they are searchable off of Feet, which is why I bumped them down to 1 each in this build. But Dual Avatar Return is basically like a Monster Reborn, or more like a Back to the Front that lets you target a Dual Avatar monster in the grave, special summon it, and then if its original level is 4 or lower, then you can special summon out a Dual Avatar token to your side of the field, which is really, really really good. And then play 2 copies of Dual Avatar Compact. Compact is really good as a 2-of because it basically copies the effect of your spells and traps by banishing them from the graveyard, which is just such a good effect. This card is a good 2-of in the deck because it is searchable off feet. It doesn't do anything basically going first, which is why I've bumped this card from 3 to 2 in this particular build, especially with all the branded cards, and it's just really, really good as a 2-of. You don't want to see it all the time, but it's a really good card when you do see it later in the game. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing 2 copies of Mirror Jade. This is going to be your main boss monster outside of your dual avatar monsters. This card is super easy to summon in the field and just an absolute boss monster. This card is so good to be able to summon in the field, and it's just really, really good overall. It's really good, especially with your Fallen of Albaz, because if your opponent has a Fusion, Synchro, XZ, or a Link monster on the field, and you have Fallen of Albaz in the hand, then you can just normal summon it and super poly their monster away to summon out this card, which is really, really insane. And then play a second copy of Lubellion is how we actually step into our copy of Mirror Jade all the time in this deck, and it's just a really good card overall. 2 copies of Albion. Albion is absolutely insane because you can actually make Albion super easy in the deck with Branded Fusion. It basically is a miracle fusion. It's how we usually step into our copy of Dragoon, and it also helps us step into some other really powerful fusion monsters later on in the game, which is really nice. But this card also has a graveyard effect that if it's sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add from your deck to your hand or set a branded spell or trap directly from your deck, which is pretty good to be able to grab Branded Fusion or Branded Loss directly from the deck to your side of the field or your hand. And then play a single copy of the Abyss Dragon because it's basically a Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, which is really awesome in the deck because you can basically use a Fallen of Albaz plus 1+ dragon monster to be able to make this card. So if you're going up against a dragon deck, this card is absolutely insane. So this card is a definite 1-of in this build. And then play 2 copies of the Dual Avatar Empowered Fist. This card is really, really, really good. I love this card. It's super good in the deck. It's just a great card overall. It does take a Dual Avatar Fist plus 2 Dual Avatar monsters, which can be the tokens to be able to summon this card. And if it battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. And if this card attacks after damage calculation, you can return 1 monster your opponent controls back to the hand. And when your opponent's spell or trap card effect is activated that targets this card on the field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, quick effect, you can negate the activation. You can only use each effect this card once per turn. It's also a 3k body, so this card is a really, really good boss monster as well. And then play a single copy of Dual Avatar Empowered Feet or Mitsu Jaku. This card is really, really good as well. I feel like 1 copy is totally fine in this deck because you don't really want to summon this card at first. You want to summon this card second after your copy of Empowered Fist. This card is really good because it has the ability the first time each Dual Avatar Fusion monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed. And then once per turn during the main phase, you can return all spell and traps your opponent controls back to the hand. And then when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's field while you control 2 or more fusion monsters, quick effect, you can destroy that monster. It doesn't negate, it just pops the monster. And then play 2 copies of Dual Avatar Feet Armored. Armored is really, really good. This card is absolutely insane because it's a walking negate. So this card is a definite 2-of in the extra deck. And plus, you want to play 2 copies of this card because you can reveal it with fusion deployment to be able to summon out, or actually you can't reveal this one. You have to reveal your copy of your Dual Avatar Empowered Feet. You can't reveal this one because this just takes 2 Dual Avatar monsters to make it. But it's really good because it has the ability if a Dual Avatar monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can destroy a Dual Avatar monster you control instead. And then during the main phase, if you control a Dual Avatar Fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster as material, quick effect, you can target 1 face-up monster that's special summoned from the extra deck and negate its effects until the end of the turn, basically making this card a walking negate. And then play a single copy of Armored Fist. Armored Fist is a really good 1-of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card because it has a really good effect, but it's just not quite as good in my opinion as your Armored Feet. But it has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can target an attack position monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Also, this card cannot attack directly for the rest of the turn, and you only use effect this card once per turn. And when you control a Dual Avatar Fusion monster that was fusion summoned using an effect monster as material, this Dual Avatar Fusion monsters that you control gain 300 attack and defense. That's an okay effect, but I feel like your copy of Feet is just better. I then play a single copy of a Super Poly target, which is our Garura. Garura is a really good Super Poly target overall in this deck because it basically is just the best one in the entire game right now. well. Then play a single copy of Dracos Tapalia because it's also a really good super poly target in this deck because it just takes a fusion monster plus any dark monster to be able to summon it. And then finally a single copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon because it's super easy to summon off your copy of your Albion's effect with Light Hexial Fusion plus your copy of Fallen of Albaz, and plus it's still a really good monster to be able to summon off your copy of Albion. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck. I'm really glad that Tyler actually suggested this deck because it's really fun. Like, this deck is absolutely insane because just getting a copy of Branded Fusion in the hand equals a copy of Mirror Jade, and then you can just back it up with all sorts of really awesome plays out of your dual avatar monsters. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.